Good morning. Welcome to 모닝스페셜. 여러분 안녕하세요. 8월 22일 목요일 최수진의 모닝스페셜입니다. The same way we need food to function, pretty much everything that surrounds us also needs some type of energy. And although we've done a pretty good job of finding sources of energy, we did too much to obtain those sources. 불을 끄고 별을 켜다. 청취자 여러분, 오늘 8월 22일은 에너지의 날입니다. 화석연료의 과다한 사용으로 인한 지구온난화, 그리고 에너지의 중요성에 대해 함께 고민해보자는 취지에서 정해진 날인데요. 오늘 서울광장을 중심으로 밤 9시 정각부터 9시 5분까지 5분간 소등 행사를 진행한다고 합니다. N서울타워, 63스퀘어 등 서울의 주요 랜드마크 건물들이 함께 참여해 전국 최대 규모의 행사로 진행된다고 하는데요. 불을 끄고 별을 켜다. 소등 시간은 5분이지만 에너지의 중요성과 지구온난화에 대해 우리 함께 고민해보는 계기가 됐으면 좋겠습니다. Above all, let's use this opportunity to re-educate ourselves that small steps can lead to a grand marathon in the race to achieve clean, affordable, accessible, and universal energy. With that in mind, let me give you today's quiz question. What kind of energy source is key to protecting the environment? Is it number 1, renewable energy, or number 2, foldable energy? 오늘도 청취자 여러분의 많은 참여 기다리고 있습니다. 여러분의 퀴즈 정답 보내주신 분들 중에 추첨을 통해서 총 5분께 비타민 C 세트 보내드리겠습니다. 또 여러분의 소식과 소감, 그리고 방송 중 궁금한 질문 있으시면 보내주세요. 짧은 문자는 50원, 긴 문자는 100원에 샵 1045고요. 반디 게시판이나 카카오톡 플러스 이용도 가능합니다. Okay then, let's kick off today's show with today's global headlines. 세계 각국 언론사들의 어떤 헤드라인이 올라왔는지 살펴보는 시간입니다. Touch Global Headlines.
Following the UK and Bahrain, Australia has also joined the US-led military mission to guard the Strait of Hormuz.
영국과 바레인에 이어 호주도 호르무즈 호위연합에 참여 의사를 밝혔습니다.
The death toll from last week's suicide bombing at a wedding hall in Kabul has risen to 80.
지난 17일 아프가니스탄에서 발생한 결혼식장 자폭 테러 사망자가 80명으로 늘어났습니다.
China has confirmed the detention of an employee at Britain's Hong Kong consulate.
홍콩 주재 영국 총영사관 직원이 중국에 억류됐다는 의혹에 대해 중국이 구류 중이라고 공식 인정했습니다.
JP Morgan has estimated that additional tariffs on Chinese goods will cost the average U.S. household $1,000 per year.
미국이 중국 제품에 대한 추가 관세를 부과하면 소비 위축 역풍을 맞을 수 있다는 보도가 나왔습니다.
Saudi Arabia has begun implementing a landmark reform allowing women to travel abroad without permission from a male guardian.
사우디아라비아가 정부가 여성이 해외로 출국할 때, 사우디아라비아 정부가요, 여성이 해외로 출국할 때 남성 보호자의 허가를 받아야 하는 마흐람 제도의 일부를 폐지했습니다.
Fatalities from DUI accidents have dropped 31% since last year.
올해 들어 음주운전 교통사고 사망자가 지난해보다 31% 감소한 것으로 나타났습니다. And for the headlines and more, I'm joined by Walter. Good morning, 선생님.
Well, good morning to you as well. I know that very often we're in tune, fashionably speaking, and it seems similar today.
Yeah, no, even the textile
That's what I mean.
of clothing,
Certainly
very similar.
a different color, but certainly a similar cut and textile.
통했어요.
Yes, very much so.
텔레파시인 것 같습니다. 오늘 저녁에 9시에요, 선생님. 집에 불 끄실 거죠?
You know what? I'm very proud to say that the energy consumption in my household is always at least 40%
Wow.
if not 60% lower than the other people in our apartment complex. You know,
true.
when you get your Gwalibi statement, it shows you that percentage. And so we're
Yeah.
always 40 to 60% less than the average.
Fantastic. Well, it's not just about this one particular day and 5 minutes later on in the evening, but I hope everyone listening today will make a habit of reducing the use of energy and trying to be a bit more environmentally friendly.
You're right. I mean, it is good to have a day where we all can focus on it, but you're exactly right. That needs to be sort of in our normal day as well, as much as possible.
그렇습니다. 오늘 저녁 9시에 이제 5분 동안 소등 뭐 행사라고 해야 될까요? 진행이 되는데 오늘 저녁뿐만 아니라 앞으로도 에너지를 사용할 때 좀 덜 사용하자라는 생각을 하면서 우리가 조금 더 친환경적인 생활을 했으면 좋겠습니다. Okay, if you'd like to listen to the headlines again, you can do so by visiting our website. 조금 전에 읽어드린 헤드라인은요. 모닝스페셜 홈페이지 헤드라인 다시 듣기에서 무료로 다시 들으실 수 있습니다. 많은 이용 바랍니다. Let's go over the headlines.
Headline number 1. Following the UK and Bahrain, Australia has also joined the US-led military mission to guard the Strait of Hormuz.
영국과 바레인에 이어 호주도 호르무즈 호위 연합에 참여 의사를 밝혔습니다.
Now, this news has been confirmed by Australia's Prime Minister. That confirmation came on Wednesday there in Australia. They are joining that US-led coalition to protect the Strait of Hormuz, and it is not the first time for Australia to get involved with the US coalition overseas. Of course, they were also involved in both the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, and in the latter case still do have troops in that region.
Australia has been a long-time ally of the United States. So along those lines, it's not surprising that this move has been made, although the Australian Prime Minister has said that it's more of an economy-related move on Canberra's part.
That's an interesting point. Yes, you're right. So if we look at the reason why Australia chose to join, of course, there is the precedent of them having done so in the past. But in this case, the Prime Minister there, that is Prime Minister Scott Morrison, said that it was not necessarily a pressure campaign against Iran. Instead, he said it's about freedom of shipping because about a third of the world's petroleum is shipped through that Strait of Hormuz. And of course, that does play into Australia's hands as well. So it is both a freedom issue as well as an economic one.
Indeed. And about 16% of crude oil and 25 to 30% of refined oil go to Australia out of that percentage you mentioned earlier on as well. So a big percentage there. And money is related to this issue as much as the military side of things. But of course, we can't ignore the military side. The other countries that have said we will join the US are the UK and Bahrain,
as we reported, I believe, on yesterday.
Yep.
If we look at the most recent edition here again, Australia, if we look at exactly how they will be contributing to that coalition, they're said to be contributing a frigate, which is a type of Navy vessel, as well as a surveillance aircraft, and that they would also station personnel at the coalition's headquarters in Bahrain. In terms of the timing of that deployment, the aircraft will not be deployed until the end of the year. The frigate is actually already stationed in a nearby area, and so will be just moved over to that mission, but it's not a big change for that ship.
그렇습니다. 그래서 이제 영국과 바레인에 이어서 호주가 세 번째로 미국의 이 호르무즈 호위 연합에 참여한다는 공식 입장을 밝혔고요. 머리슨 총리는 이게 호주의 국가 이익과 관련이 있다라고 하면서 참여 범위와 기간은 좀 제한적일 수도 있다라고 얘기를 했습니다. Okay, let's leave that story there. Of course, I think we'll find out in the near future, perhaps, if more countries will join in, and that includes maybe even South Korea. We'll see. Let's go on to our next headline.
Headline number 2. The death toll from last week's suicide bombing at a wedding hall in Kabul has risen to 80.
지난 17일 아프가니스탄에서 발생한 결혼식장 자폭 테러 사망자가 80명으로 늘어났습니다.
So very tragically, of course, we did report on this story at the time of its happening. At that time, the death toll was said to be 63. That is now increased by a number of 17 people to reach 80 killed in that blast. The 17 people added now to the death toll, of course, were those who had been injured before, but very sadly have died as a result of their injuries.
지난 17일 있었던 소식에 대해서도 저희가 주 초에 말씀을 드렸었는데요. 아프가니스탄에서 한 결혼식장 안에서 IS가 이제 IS의 소행으로 우리가 알고 있습니다. 자폭 테러를 해서 결국은 이제 굉장히 많은 부상자가 나왔습니다. 근데 그 부상자 중에서 어제 아프가니스탄 정부에 따르면은 17명이 추가로 사망을 하는 바람에 사망자 수가 63명에서 80명으로 늘어났다고 합니다.
Now, the conflict in Afghanistan has been called one of the world's deadliest conflicts for last year, 2018. The United Nations reports that more civilians died there last year than had died in the past decade. Wow. There are said to be over 32,000 civilians that have been killed in Afghanistan over the past 10 years.
That is an alarming stat just there. 지난 한 10년간 있었던 사망자, 테러로 인한 사망자 수보다 작년의 숫자가 이제 거의 견줄 수 있을 정도로 굉장히 많았다라는 얘기를 지금 월터 선생님이 해주셨습니다. Okay, let's go on to our next headline.
Headline number 3. China has confirmed the detention of an employee at Britain's Hong Kong consulate.
홍콩 주재 영국 총영사관 직원이 중국에 억류됐다는 의혹에 대해 중국이 구류 중이라고 공식 인정했습니다.
So the worker here at the UK's Hong Kong consulate has allegedly been detained at the border for allegedly violating public security laws there in China. That has been confirmed by China. Media reports on Tuesday had said that Mr. Simon Cheng, who is thought to be originally from Hong Kong, went missing on August 8th during a business trip. And now, of course, we've heard that he has indeed been detained.
Right. And Shenzhen is where he went for this business trip. It's right next to Hong Kong. I've been there by train from Hong Kong back and forth a couple of times. And as you said, he went there for a business trip, but on his way back, he was not able to return. And China has said this is just an internal affair because he is, after all, Chinese and we're just doing local business.
That is exactly the response from China, saying exactly that Mr. Chen is a Chinese citizen. Of course, I did mention he is from Hong Kong, but in the eyes of China, that would be one and the same.
Sure.
Since he is a Chinese citizen, then the Chinese position is that it is indeed an internal affair. The UK, for its part, has responded by saying that it is extremely concerned over the matter and that the embassy in Beijing is, of course, providing support to Mr. Cheng's family.
And he's been detained for 15 days, I believe, right, so far?
That's the initial time, but we'll, of course, have to see if that develops into anything more.
그렇군요. 지금 한 15일째 구금이 됐다고 중국 정부가 밝혔습니다. 사이먼 정이라고 하는 이 영국 총영사관 직원은요, 이제 홍콩에 있는 영국 총영사관입니다. 그리고 국적이 이제 외신 보도에 따르면은 중국 국적, 이제 홍콩 국적인 것으로 나타났는데 중국에서는 홍콩 국적도 중국으로 보고 있기 때문에 중국의 어떤 internal affair다. 그냥 국내의 어떤 작은 사건이다. 그러면서 영국이라든지 다른 나라에 관여하지 마라라고 했습니다. 구금된 이유에 대해서는 치안관리조례 처벌법 위반이다. 이런 얘기를 했거든요. There hasn't been a whole lot of explanation as to why he was arrested, although China has said he violated some laws.
Right. Public security laws has been the general statement as to the reason for Mr. Cheng's detention, but you're right, there's been no specific information given the details of the alleged offense. There have been a small group of protesters who have gathered outside the British consulate in support of Mr. Cheng, but that's been the majority of it so far. There hasn't been much public response other than that small gathering outside the consulate.
Right, and the international community as well as a lot of the protesters in Hong Kong are seeing this as none other than part of the ongoing, I suppose, reactions from Beijing against the protests.
Sure, indeed. And if we go looking into that, that certainly could be the case, although China would deny that. As they said, it's an internal matter, but there are many people who are looking at it quite differently.
Okay, let's move on to our next headline.
Headline number 4. JP Morgan has estimated that additional tariffs on Chinese goods will cost the average U.S. household $1,000 per year.
미국이 중국 제품에 대한 추가 관세를 부과하면 소비 위축 역풍을 맞을 수 있다는 보도가 나왔습니다.
So this $1,000 per year figure, that's sort of estimated to be based on tariffs of about 10% that are said to go into effect on September 1st.
Right.
Now that's an increase of a previous estimate that had put the cost of these increased tariffs on U.S. households at about $600. So there had been an estimate previously of $600. That's now been increased to $1,000. And looking sort of at a perhaps worst case scenario, if tariffs were to increase to 25%, as there has been some talk about, in that case, then the cost to consumers, according to JP Morgan, is expected to rise to $1,500 US dollars.
The current added tariffs of 25% on some of the goods coming from China right now don't really affect day-to-day life for Americans. But like you said, once these new tariffs of 10% go into force from September 1st, JP Morgan is saying that will affect just the normal average American citizen. They will have to, pay more.
That is indeed correct. And there's also another important factor here to consider with the sort of Christmas gift-giving season not that too far away.
Yeah.
There has been a slight shift from the White House. Some of the tariffs that were going to be applied or expected to be applied to cell phones, laptops, and toys have been excluded now from those tariffs. So if that were to go through, that average cost to the consumer could even be higher, but so far for the time being, those types of products, cell phones, laptops, toys, and the like, have been excluded from tariffs for the time being.
네, 지금까지는 이제 미국에서 중국 제품에 대한 25% 관세를 부과한 품목들이 있죠. 그렇지만 이 품목들의 대부분은 생산에 들어가는 이제 중간재에 해당됩니다. 그래서 일반적으로 미국 국민들이나 시민들이 불편함을 크게 느끼지 못한다고 하는데 이제 앞으로 9월 1일부터 10%의 관세가 추가로 부과되면은 그때는 JP 모건에 따르면 미국의 일반적인 가구당 연간 한 120만 원 정도의 추가 비용이 들어갈 수 있다라고 보고 있습니다.
And just very quickly, another interesting point to consider is that earlier in his presidency, President Trump did give a tax cut to many places in America, let's put it that way. That tax cut was said to be about a $1,300 benefit to households. So if we look at these tariffs costing an additional $1,000, well, that's certainly the majority of that alleged $1,300 tax cut.
Right, exactly. Okay, and moving on to our next headline.
Headline number 5. Saudi Arabia has begun implementing a landmark reform allowing women to travel abroad without permission from a male guardian.
사우디아라비아 정부가 여성이 해외로 출국할 때 남성 보호자의 허가를 받아야 하는 마흐람 제도의 일부를 폐지했습니다.
So this recent change comes on the heels of other changes that have been made in that region over the past year or even perhaps 18 months. Most recently and perhaps most significantly, and one that we reported on here on the show, was the ending of a ban on women driving cars last year.
Yes.
That was one of the sort of biggest changes at that time. Now these new changes to regulations there stipulate that a Saudi passport should be issued to any citizen who applies for it, and that any person above the age of 21 does not need permission to travel. So, of course, now that would include, obviously, women.
Right. And the latest move, as well as the one you mentioned just a minute ago about women being able to drive and go into football stadiums, which they were not allowed to do beforehand.
That's correct, yes.
Those moves by the de facto head, I suppose, Mohammed bin Salman, are being seen as very forward-thinking. A lot of people are saying that is, of course, going in the right direction. But, of course, there was an incident last year that tainted a lot of those efforts, that to do with the murder of Khashoggi.
Yes,
right.
The journalist who was killed obviously would be a huge backtrack on the human rights advances that have been made. Of course, different in that that doesn't apply directly to women, so certainly good in this case that the changes to women are still coming about, but you're absolutely right. That,
although they are allegations, but people are still saying that tainted the overall leadership of Saudi Arabia that we're talking about. But thinking, going back to what they're doing for women.
Yep.
That is a step forward, but it's not completely forward.
Well, it's not indeed. There are a few other things that would give the impression of perhaps being another step forward if indeed they are applied fully. Some other regulations there that have changed, granting women the right to register childbirth, marriage, or divorce, and also to be issued official family documents and be eligible as a guardian to children who are minors. All of those things had also been excluded previously. And just getting back to the travel requirement, it is said that, according to a Saudi newspaper at least, more than 1,000 women did leave Saudi Arabia on Monday without their guardian's permission in what some people do say appears to be an early implementation of these new policies.
어떤 그 여성의 권리가 조금은 더 신장한 모습, 향상된 모습을 볼 수 있습니다. 그렇지만 여전히 이제 혼인을 할 경우에는요, 남성 보호자의 동의 하에 혼인을 해야 되는 게 사우디아라비아의 법이고요. 자녀의 국적은 무조건 아버지를 따라야 되고 자녀가 결혼할 때도 여성은 동의권이 없다고 합니다. Let's go on to our final headline.
Headline number 6. Fatalities from DUI accidents in the country have dropped 31% since last year.
올해 들어 음주운전 교통사고 사망자가 지난해보다 31% 감소한 것으로 나타났습니다.
Now, certainly good news here, specifically looking at fatalities from DUI accidents, and that's driving under the influence of alcohol. Those have dropped some 31.3%. That actually works out to 63 fewer people having been killed. And of course, many people are attributing this to the Yoon Chang-ho Act, which has lowered the permissible amount of blood alcohol to 0.03%.
네, 그러니까 교통사고 사망자는 평균 10% 이상 감소했고요. 특히 그 중에서도 이제 음주운전 가 관련된 윤창호법 시행 이후에 교통사고 사망자가 31.3% 준 것으로 볼 수 있습니다. 여러 종류의 이제 교통사고가 있으니까요. 그 중에서도 음주운전과 관련된 것은 이렇게 많이 줄었다라고 볼 수 있겠고요. 보행 중 사망자는 680여 명. 근데 작년에는 780여 명이었네요. 그러니까 한 13% 준 것을 볼 수 있습니다.
Yeah, there was good news across the board. All types of traffic fatalities were down in many, many categories, including pedestrian deaths, as you said there. So good news all around.
65세 이상 고령 사망자도요. 작년 대비 4.9% 줄었다고 합니다. Well, those are our headlines for this morning. And let's remind our listeners of the quiz.
Well, the morning special, we hope, is your morning energy. So I have an energy question here. What kind of energy source is key to protect the environment? Would that be number 1, renewable energy, or number 2, foldable energy?
네, 짧은 문자 50원, 긴 문자 100원에 샵 1045로 보내주시고요. 또 무료 반디 게시판 그리고 카카오톡 플러스 이용도 가능합니다. 추첨을 통해서 총 5분께 비타민 C 세트 보내드리겠습니다. And to give our listeners a bit of a hint, energy can be used again and made new again. I don't know if you can fold it though.
I don't think you can fold it, but yes, you can make it new
Again. 네, 그렇습니다. Let's listen to a song, and when we come back, we'll take a look at our news focus stories. Here's Enrique Iglesias with Hero.